Okay, hello everyone, Wade here. Today we are going to talk about how to set up the chess set. So this video is aimed at people who are brand new to the game, who don't quite know how to set up the board yet. After that, we'll be going over how to move all the pieces. First of all, let's talk about the board itself. When we place the board down on the table, we need the white square in the right corner for both sides of the board. If we were to have it the other way, with the black in the right corner, then the pieces are going to be set up backwards. So it's very important when setting up the board, we start correctly with the white to the right. The first pieces we're going to place down are the rooks. They go in the corner of the board. We're going to work our way in with the knight, then the bishops, and then finally we have the king and the queen. The queen will be always placed on her own color. The king will go next to her. So if we look at that from the other side of the board, we have the rooks, we have the knights, we have the bishops, and then the queen will go on the dark square for the black pieces, and the king will go on the other square. Then all we have left to put out on the board are the pawns. And that is how you set up a chessboard. As you'll notice, when you're playing as white, the king will be on the right side of the board. When you're playing as black, the king will actually be on the left side of the board. Now that we know how to set up the board, let's have a quick look at how to move all the pieces. We will start with the pawn. The pawn only moves in one direction, and that is forward up the board. When the pawn moves in the beginning of the game, or each time a pawn moves for the very first time during that game, they're actually allowed to move 2 squares. They can also move 1 square if they choose to. However, after the game has started and they've already made their first move, any move after that will be 1 square at a time for the pawn. If the pawn wants to capture a piece, it will actually do it diagonally. Here we can see that the pawn can capture the knight. It can also capture the rook. It cannot capture the bishop by moving forward. It also cannot move forward because a piece is blocking the way. If the bishop was not there, the pawn can move forward. Because the bishop's there, it cannot move forward, but it can capture by taking the piece. Another important fact about the pawn is you may be wondering what happens when it gets to the end of the square, the end of the board. Once it gets to the end of the board, it can promote to any piece that it likes except for the king. So it could become a knight. The next piece we'll look at is the rook. The rook will move either up a file or across a rank. The rook can move as many squares as it wants, provided it's not blocked by any pieces. For example, here the rook can actually move up to h4, but it cannot go past because a pawn is blocking the way. Here the rook can go sideways from h1 to e1. However, it can go to the next square if it wants to capture the knight, but if it was its own color, it would not be able to go past that piece. The bishops move diagonally. So if a bishop is on a light square, it will be able to move diagonally along the light squares. It can go as far as it wants, provided there's no pieces blocking the way. That would be fine. To capture, just like the pawn does, it captures on a diagonal. A little important fact about the bishops is you get two of them. One will start on the dark square and one will start on the light square. These bishops will stay on that color for the entire game. The knight. The knight is a unique piece because where other pieces all move in a logical straight manner or diagonal, the knight actually moves in an L shape. So the knight will move one square up and two across, or two squares up and one across. The good thing about the knight is it can actually jump over pieces. So it actually is able to get into areas that other pieces are not able to. This is the only piece that can jump over pieces during the game, and that makes it very valuable. To capture a piece, when the knight wants to make its move, it makes a move in the L-shaped pattern again to capture the piece. So basically, if a piece is on a square and the knight can move in the L, then it can capture. So the queen is the most powerful piece on the board. It acts just like a rook does, going up and down files, but it also acts, and across the ranks, but also acts like a bishop going diagonally as well. So just like the bishops, we have a dark square and a light square. The queen can go diagonally on a dark square, behave like a rook and go to a light square, and then go diagonally on the light squares, making this a very powerful piece. The queen, to capture a piece, also has to do it in the normal movements, landing on the square of the other piece. The king. The king has the ability to move one square at a time. However, the king can go in any direction that it likes to. There's another move in chess where if the king and the rook have not yet moved, then they can actually do a maneuver called castling, which is where you move the king two squares to the right and the rook goes over. You move it two squares to the left and the rook goes over, and that's all counted as one move. You cannot do it if your king is under attack, or if the square that your king wants to go through is being attacked. So, for example, here, you cannot castle because the bishop would be hitting that square. Here, you cannot castle because the king is in check. But now, here you could castle because the king is no longer being attacked. If the square that the king lands on is also attacked, then you cannot castle, because then you would be in check and you would lose your king. So, to recap, to set up the board, pawns on the second rank, rooks in the corner, followed by the knights, the bishops, the queen on her own color, and the king next to her. And that is how you set up your pieces. And that concludes this video. Now, this video is the beginning of a tutorial series for beginners. In the next video, we'll be looking at how to effectively use the pieces and what makes them valuable. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Have a good day.